Good evening, my name's Steve Wraith.
And I'm Malcolm MacDonald.
And I'm John Gibson.
And this is NUFC Matters. Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters, sponsored by UK Collection Services. We're available on Twitter tonight, on Malcolm's Twitter, at 9supermac, where he's got over 6,000 followers now, so welcome to you. We're live on Facebook on our page group, NUFC Matters, and we're also live on YouTube. And of course, the full show will be available on there with all of our shows as from tonight. Good evening, lads.
Hiya.
Good evening, Steve.
West Ham away then.
Whoa, wasn't it
Wow,
good?
how wrong
Yeah.
were we?
Well, absolutely.
And delighted to be wrong as
yeah,
well.
absolutely. I mean, everything about it. 3 goals? Are you kidding me? We've only scored 1 all season per game. Absolutely fabulous, you've got to say. Delighted. Okay, they came back and got 2 and made it much closer than it was, because in truth, Newcastle won in a canter. They were shocking. Newcastle were terrific.
They've really taken some criticism, haven't they?
Oh,
Ham, for the
I mean,
performance.
absolutely desperate. And, you know, the interesting thing was they couldn't have been set up better for us, because they had 2 full-backs that played high up the pitch. One of them, Zabaleta, bless him, he's about as old as I am. And against St. Maximum, with his pace, he was absolutely destroyed. Ball just knocked behind him and Maximum was away. 2 centre-halves who couldn't defend, and a goalkeeper more dodgy than Del Boy. So they were made for us on the night. They were made for us. And Newcastle were terrific. Thrilled to bits. If I've got any criticism, and I have, because I'm always looking for utopia, it's that we never got a goal from one of the 3 forwards. And
Same old
that.
issue, isn't it?
Yeah, we need that, because they missed. Newcastle could have been 4 up at half time and could have won the match 6, and West Ham could not have complained. Maximum missed 2, Almiron missed 2. And on another day, you know, with a 3-2 scoreline, on another day, because there were good chances. They weren't half chances, they were good chances. On another day, that could have cost us. But hey, I'm not complaining.
No.
We won, and we won well, and that was terrific.
Yeah, it's just that what I'm looking to see is anger from the forwards that they're not getting into the goal scoring mix. And I'm not really seeing it. They seem to be easy-ozy about the fact they're not scoring.
Well, I think Maximum at this stage, we can say, okay, we'll hold our hands up. He's only played. Has he played half a dozen games yet? He's quick, he's settling in, he's full of confidence, and I'm just praying he gets a goal while that confidence is there and it's not knocked out of him, and he doesn't become, you know, 2 months down the line, become another Almiron, a quick wing attacker who doesn't score and then suddenly is taken in water. I think we can take him out of any criticism. But the other 2 boys, I mean, Almiron's been here 3/4 of a year now and hasn't got a goal. And Joe Linton, bless him, did terrific on the header at the back post, knocked back
To
in
set up the first goal.
To set up the first goal. But he didn't look like scoring the whole of the game. He didn't really have a chance the whole of the game. We need them 3 to break the dog. It is all right saying they played well, etc., etc. But as you know, if you have forwards who don't score, Malcolm, they're not doing the most important part of their job.
Well, they're not, and they heap pressure on the rest of the side. But when you think that of that forward line, 2 of those 3 are just about the quickest in the league.
Oh, without the
quickest in the Premiership.
Without the shadow.
And so if they could just get that pace that they hold,
of course,
to work and set up the goal chances and stick it in the net, Newcastle could become frightening.
Well, we're a topsy-turvy side, Malcolm, because we've got 3 forwards that don't score a goal. And we've got the best goal-scoring central defenders in the Premier League.
Well, that's
because
right.
we've got four goal
centre
scorers.
halves.
Have all scored this season, while the forwards haven't. You know, we've got Shaw scored, Lascelles has scored, Fernandez has scored, and The other guy. Who else?
Lejeune?
No,
No, he
not
hasn't
playing.
scored. He's the one that hasn't scored.
That's because he hasn't played.
Yes.
but
So,
we've
yeah.
got 4 goal
Yeah,
scorers.
yeah.
Lascelles.
Lascelles,
Yeah.
Fernandez,
Yeah.
Shaw,
Clark.
and Clark.
Clark, who you said last week should
Yeah.
play a centre forward, and what's the
Yeah.
first thing he does is turn up in that position, albeit
Yeah.
for a set piece, and finishes. He has a good goal scoring record
He
when
has.
he gets
Yeah.
headed chances.
That's right.
In the box.
And I just get the feeling that he would make a better target man than Joe Linton, if that's what Newcastle are wanting. He seems to just have a nose for what needs to be done in the opposing penalty area.
Wouldn't we love to play West Ham every week?
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
I mean,
Dear
please
me.
God, that would be
Yeah.
wonderful.
It was
wouldn't
disappointing to concede
John.
the 2 goals, and I mean, towards
It
the
was.
back end of the
It
game, for
was.
those travelling fans, those 3,000 or so Newcastle fans have travelled down.
Brilliant.
Nervous times, really,
Yeah.
with a second goal going
But
in.
in fairness to the team as well, Steve, they didn't deserve it to look as close as it looked. 3-2, having been 3-0 up, to come back to 3-2, you think, hanging on. Newcastle were miles better than West Ham. And that flattered West Ham, man.
Yes.
Getting that. It looked as if it was close, and they were shocking. And by the way, I mean, I had been looking at the table, and West Ham were up near the top. They're 1 point ahead of us now.
Yes.
I think if they continue to play like this, they could be one of them. I'm looking for 3 teams that are worse than Newcastle to go down. They could be one of them.
Yeah.
They could be one of them
Yes.
because the way they're going.
You see, and if with the goals that are coming from elsewhere, that means Newcastle they are dangerous on set pieces and what have you. If we could just start to get it working in open play as well, all of a sudden it might just all take off for Steve Bruce, bless him. But
I come back to the
he
situation.
really is seriously being let down by the forwards.
Angie Stangelise is texting, and she basically says Steve Bruce deserves credit for this performance. Would you say yes?
Well, look, if he's
Yeah, I'm not going to deny him that at all.
if he's going to get stick when he deserves it, yes, you've got to give him it when it wins. But I mean, Steve Bruce is like the 3 forwards, isn't he?
Yeah.
They're still the jury's out saying what's going to happen. Yeah.
The 3 players are stuttery in the way that they perform. Steve is somewhat stuttery on what to say and how to say it.
Yeah.
You know, he makes far too many mentions of the previous manager, Rafa Benitez.
Yeah, I was going to come to that. He
Far
again,
too many
on Match of the
mentions.
Day,
Don't ever mention him.
Anybody who didn't see it on Match of the Day, you know, and I had to rewatch it because I was criticised for being a bit critical of this, but he brought the subject matter up again, and this isn't the first time he's done it. You know, the fans were shouting his name as he was getting interviewed.
It's of his own volition.
Yeah.
It's not as if the question is being asked.
The question was asked of him, are you happy with that response? You must be happy with that response. Yeah, it's been great. It's nice to get the praise.
Right, but then he brings Benitez
why
into
do
it.
that? Why do that? Is it in his mind? Is it subconscious?
In all the years that I managed, I never made a solitary mention or reference to a previous manager of the club, because that's history. It's gone, it's dead, it's buried.
Yeah.
And so you're looking at the present and the future.
Yeah.
And Benitez is part of history in Newcastle United's.
I think the fans have got over it now. We're into November. Halloween's out the way, bonfire night's out the way. We're on the way to Christmas. He's gone. We've got over it now.
And with a terrific performance, great result down in London against West Ham. Steve, he could bask in it a little bit, couldn't he?
Yeah.
Well, I think he did. He went over to fans at the end of the game and all that.
But
yes,
when he
didn't
was
mention
speaking,
past.
he didn't bask. It was almost as if he was still referring to hang-ups and what have you.
Yeah.
I think he's got to, hopefully that he's taken note over these last few days, and that he's just becoming more relaxed about it. You know, because I'm sure that players pick up the vibes. They always do in the dressing room.
Shelby come back into the side. I think it was a surprise for many. I think
it was a huge surprise that he started.
Yeah,
it was a surprise.
Did he do well as far as you were concerned? You know, I mean, by his own standards, he's let himself down in recent performances. Blackburn was probably one of his better games.
Okay. Yes. The problem with Shelby is because it doesn't matter what you tell him to do, he's going to go and do his own thing.
Yeah.
Is he going to play as a support to the forwards from midfield, or is he going to sit in front of the centre halves and not allow them to push up?
Yeah.
You don't know which one he's going to do when he goes out on the pitch.
Yeah.
And if he were to play that constant support role to the forwards,
Yeah.
that's when he's a player, a real player.
I think what we're going to find out, Malcolm, is over the next 2 games, bearing in mind we've got an international break in the middle of it, in the next 2 games, we will see what his attitude is, what he's like at getting on the pitch, and what his enthusiasm is all about.
Yeah.
Because there's 2 more games before Sean Longstaff's available to challenge him for that position.
Yeah.
Now, I think with John Joe, we'll know in 2 games' time. When he's had 3 games on the trot, you'll know what the level of consistency or no consistency
what
is.
we really want to see against Bournemouth is him go out and give an identical performance to that we saw against West Ham in quality, and positionally. And for him not to go, oh, well, I was able to do that. Right, now I'm going to do something else.
Yeah.
And that's when he lets himself down and lets everybody around him down as well. What we want to see is that positive positional situation that he created, and it was positive, very positive, and it's probably the best I've seen of him for some while.
I think that's right, and we know his pluses, we know what he can do.
Oh,
but
crikey,
the whole of his career up to now, Malcolm, is if only, isn't it? You know, every time it's if only. If only this had happened, he could have played for England.
Right, and how many clubs and managers and coaches
Liverpool
has he fallen out?
Yeah.
Has he fallen out with, you know, and really the most important person for John Joe Shelvey is himself.
Yeah.
And if he looks to just get the best out of himself all the time, boy, it makes us all a lot richer.
The interesting thing, thinking about it just on the hoof, going, you know, why he played so well. For a start, his career was at a low ebb here, possibly the lowest ebb, and he wanted a new contract. And secondly, he was a Cockney going back to London. Thirdly, he was playing against West Ham, who wanted to sign him in the summer. So there was a lot of reasons for him to say, let me go out and get this sorted today. And good luck to him, we did. It's all, the difficulty is always doing it again.
Right. And
i.e. Bournemouth.
Right. And when I've been asked the question after having had a really good game, what next? You know, what's the most, you know, the best goal you've scored? My next one, always the next one.
Yeah.
And that's the attitude that I would like to see from John Joe Shelvey.
Yeah.
That having scored in a game that he played so well in, I would like to see him look to be scoring again, look to be controlling the game as he did down at West Ham.
Yeah.
Do it 2 games in a row. And when you've done it 2 games in a row, then do it in the 3rd one.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the 4th one. And then you start to build a consistency. And he's got so much ability that if he can make it consistent, boy, what a better side Newcastle will be.
100%.
I mean, the funny thing is, we're talking about the strikers don't score. When he scored down there, he's our top scorer this season now with 2, because he scored at Norwich, if you remember, right at the death, when he didn't have a good game. Right at the death at Norwich. So he's walking about today, he's Newcastle United's top
He might not have scored, Joe Linton, but he, you know, probably one of his better games in a black and white shirt, was it fair to say?
Yes, I think it's very fair to say.
He held the ball up well, he distributed it well, and obviously we had our enigma, which is St Maximum.
You could see players around him and the defenders when they were getting forward. They enjoyed playing with him.
Yeah.
And that tells me that he was playing really well.
Yeah.
I just wonder whether there seems to me to be a problem between him and Almiron, that one doesn't know how to support the other. They don't seem to get in touch with each other at all. You know, you see forward pairings and they're working together.
They don't dovetail at all. No.
They don't. There is
No,
no
they don't.
dovetailing.
No, they
Nothing
don't.
at all,
They don't.
John.
No.
Yeah.
The one thing that worries me, and I'm trying desperately not to be overcritical tonight because we're on the back of a super performance and a super win. But when I look at somebody that's wearing a number 9 shirt, and by the way, I think it might have been a nice thing not to have given a number 9 because a number 9 weighs very heavily with the number 9 3 back, and he's a young,
And he was
a
probably
young boy
unaware
that's
of
come.
that, but
no,
it's-
he would be totally unaware. But the club were aware. The club know what the number 9 is. But when I look at my number 9s, and I struggle after the game, however well they've played, to say, oh, you had a good shot there and a good shot there and a header. The keeper had to go full length, tip it round the post. And I can think of chances that went to maximum and went to Almiron and were squandered. I can't think of any good chances Joe Linton had in this particular. He did terrific for his assist on the first goal.
Yes, and
But
setting other people up. And
forwards should be in there finishing and working the goalkeeper. I can't remember when he worked the keeper, and that is a constant
And a bad
fear with
goalkeeper
me.
at that.
And
It
a
was a
shocking
shocking
by
performance.
Jove me,
Yeah.
what a good! I mean, Fabianski, the number 1 goalkeeper, is very decent.
Yeah.
This guy was absolutely. I mean, he was all over the shop.
Yes.
But we've got to hope that the 3 of them saw what they're capable of doing between the halfway line and in the box, and hope that we can build on that against Bournemouth. We're going to look for so much against Bournemouth, aren't we? We're going to look for what happens with the front 3 in terms of finishing and what happens with Shelby.
A bit unfair on Matty Longstaff. I mean, Sean Longstaff, obviously, you know.
I was surprised it happened.
Yeah,
I mean, with
It's not
hindsight-
unexpected with a young player, though,
No,
is it?
no, he's
I
only
mean,
18 and he come out of nowhere and he set such a high standard against Manchester United.
Yeah.
You're going to think, at that age, can he do that game after game after? He comes out and he goes back in. I was surprised, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. With hindsight, you've got to say to Steve Bruce it worked.
Yeah,
because Shelby come in
it
from
did.
when it worked.
And I think he's done brilliantly well as Matty Longstaff. What I used to find, because I was happy to blood youngsters.
Yeah.
When you were at
When I
Fulham,
was
you
at
did
Fulham,
that. Yeah.
But what I found was that when they first came into the side, they could be absolutely terrific for 5, maybe 6 games, but then like a mental exhaustion, because they were having to take so much in, because it's such a completely different level to anything that they've ever faced before, and the opponents are on a different level, and so the learning is so great in those few games, few weeks.
They're mentally exhausted.
They're mentally exhausted, and that I found that at best, after 6 games, take them out for 3 or 4 games, just let them go into the reserves and get playing again, and then I'll put them back in the first team, and they had matured. You know, just taking them out for those 4 games.
I mean, Matty's going to be a good player. And
He is
come
going to be
again.
an
He'll
excellent
come
player.
again. There's no question
Yes.
at all.
Yes.
Couple of comments from Facebook. Stephen Dodgson says, get Super Mac back up front, he'll score the goals. and Tudor says, we are watching in Minnesota.
Oh, really?
Oh,
John-
terrific.
So that must be hello
Love
to
you,
John.
Anne,
love
and
you to
hello,
death,
John.
Anne.
Hello,
Love you
hello
to
to
death.
Anne,
Wow.
and hello to John Tudor. That's fantastic.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
That's the power of the internet. That.
Yes, isn't it?
That's
Just,
crazy.
yeah, hope you're both well,
Chris
and all the
Dubby's-
family.
Chris Dubby says, has anyone heard about the tweet that Richard Keys put out? It's an interesting one. He's called him Hairy Hands for obvious reasons. But yeah, I mean, essentially, Richard Keys put a very cryptic tweet out, mischievous tweet. He knows he gets a lot of mileage out of Newcastle fans on social media.
Yeah,
when
he
put
does.
something out.
Yes, he does.
But
Yes,
it was alluring to the fact that there was going to be big news and Newcastle fans were going to be very happy. Have you heard anything on the grapevine?
I know.
Have we got another fantastic takeover story in the offing?
Yeah. Well, we've been taken over so often in the last 11, 12 years, haven't we? It's quite amazing
Everybody
that
is-
Mike Ashley is still sitting up there. How has that happened with all the takeovers we've had?
Because of course, Richard Keys, he works
Yeah.
out in the Middle East, doesn't he?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
You know,
does.
so
He's
he's
using
aware
that.
of Arab connections and all sorts. So
Paul
yes.
Saunders says, well done, Supermac, tipping Kieran Clark to be a striker and being Newcastle's best hope of a goal. P.S. I must say, well done to Steve Bruce for the win at the weekend. Bring in Shelby and Hayden. was a big decision, but it paid off.
It was a big decision, and it worked.
As we've already discussed.
And it worked.
A little thing in the news today, the report was made that Newcastle fans, out of all fans in the Football League, spend the most money in a season, mainly for travel, for tickets.
To support the team.
Yeah, so it was worked on an average of a supporter that goes to every home game and goes to 5 away games.
Did they take in the bills from the bar?
Yes, I think they did. No, they didn't. They just said the average spend was something like just over £2,000.
Yeah,
that's a big commitment, especially in a city where we're relying on food banks.
I mean, it is massive. We all know how terrific, without licking anyone or being silly, we all know how wonderful the Newcastle United fans are and how devoted they are. Yeah. Because we are the best supporters at supporting failure. Yeah. We do it without encouragement. Sure. Now, I saw that report, Steve, and we were level with Liverpool on, I think, 13-14%. We were level with Liverpool as the two sets of supporters that spend the most money in supporting a football club. Now, and I think in lots of ways we are like Scousers. We're love of football. They sort of humour. There is the humour on the terraces. But there's a huge difference. I mean, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that Liverpool only support the club because it's successful, because they most certainly don't. They're magnificent supporters as well. But my Jove, they've had a bit of encouragement. Yeah. And since Newcastle won anything, how many European Cups alone? They're the current holders, but how many European Cups have they won when they were winning them with Keegan and with Telly McDermott and with Dalglish, etc., etc. And of course, they could well win the league this year. They've only lost once, all last season and this season in the Premier League. So they have a lot more incentive to travel. But their supporters are terrific. Our supporters are terrific with no incentive. I mean, they have an incentive to go at the moment. They're European champions and they look as if they're going to win the Premier League. Our supporters have an incentive not to go because of their dislike of Mike Ashley. So there's an awful lot of money being spent, and that's why we were terrific and delighted to see the fans down at West Ham receive what they deserve to receive. And it's just a shame, if we could pick on something, that they scored 2 goals. It would have been lovely to be 3 out, absolutely slaughtered them and all the fans, but didn't the fans down there enjoy it?
Yeah. Didn't they just? I was talking to one who was down there today, and he's a gentleman who's certainly as old as me, and he's been having he's been having quite a few problems of late, but he concentrates on those problems 6 days a week, because on the 7th he went down to West Ham.
Brilliant.
He went down to West Ham, saw the game, travelled back up, and then the next day he
had his problems again.
He deals with the problems. But he wasn't going to let anything stand in his way. And that's what I think makes Newcastle United supporters so special.
To keep going to all the London games, by the way, because we won at Spurs and we won at West Ham.
Yeah, 100%. Yes. A couple more comments on Facebook. Kelvin Shell says, St Maximum was on fire for the West Ham game. Just a shame that when he hit the final third, we just seemed to get lost, so to speak. Obviously, he got through one-on-ones. And
what I don't want that to become is the same old story. In the he's great until we get to the last third.
The final third.
Oh dear me! They've got the final third is the most important part of the pitch for a player like Maximin, and he's got to go in there with confidence and firing, and he's got the pace to keep getting in there all of the while. Yeah. And I just have that feeling that he'll get one, and then all of a sudden there'll be a bit of an avalanche.
Aunt Judah says, hello, lovely to see you. Thanks to Angie. Angie must have tipped her off. Michael Graham says, I think Saturday showed us how much we have missed Hayden. Thought he was immense. Yeah, good point. I thought he was as well. Ross says, can you predict us to lose again? It might be an omen. You're right. Well, let's move on to that before we close the show. Bournemouth at home. Here's a couple of interesting stats. Obviously, last season we were victors. We won against them at 2-1 at home. This is a nice stat as well. We're going into this game If we win, if we beat Bournemouth, it'll be our best start since 2014-15, which is, it's
Well, now
good.
you just put the whole kibosh on,
Yeah,
the
probably
whole
have.
thing,
Probably
mate.
have.
Hasn't he, Joe?
Put the whole
But
kibosh.
it's an interesting game. Obviously, we've got, they've had a couple of wins on the road. They're not prolific on the road. They've beaten Aston Villa. They've beaten Southampton. Obviously, they come off the back of a four-game run where they couldn't get a win. They beat Man United, though, like we have.
I was going to say, we both beat Man United 1-0
both 1-0
at home.
So it's an interesting game. How do you see it going, John, first?
Interesting. They always let goals in. First 8 games of the season in the Premier League, Bournemouth never kept a clean sheet.
Yeah.
The last 3, they've kept a clean sheet. Now, that's interesting.
Yes.
That defence is going to play against our front 3. What's going to come out of that?
Yeah.
They haven't been scoring a lot themselves recently. I think the goal, Josh King's goal that beat Manchester United was the first for 300 and odd minutes. So they've had difficulties as well. I think it's a fascinating game. I think it's in lots of ways our home record must be improved. I think we've got 1 win out of 5 in the league, and we've only scored 3 goals in those 5 games.
Yeah.
I think with their record of not letting goals in, not scoring goals, and our record, it's going to be close. And I think there'll only be 1 goal in it, and I think it'll go to Newcastle United. I'm taking Newcastle to win 1-0.
What about you, Mal?
Newcastle to win 1-0.
I really think that it all swings on Shelvey and his attitude. If he goes out there with the same attitude that I saw against West Ham, and he shows that against Bournemouth, I think he could go and dictate the game and start to pull Bournemouth apart with what he's able to do. He's one of those great passers of a ball who understands other people's pace.
Yeah.
And he can set other people up all of the while. And if Shelvey goes with the same attitude as West Ham, I think Newcastle will win, and I'll say 2-0.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for a win as well. I think it's an interesting game. Again, I don't think it'll be a classic. I don't think we'll have many classics this season, but I think the confidence will be up. I certainly think that Newcastle will look to push on and get the better of that. It doesn't often happen, of course. Newcastle go away, they get a great win, they come home, they get beat.
Absolutely.
But I think you're right. I think it'll be a narrow scoreline. I'm going to go for 1-0 as well, John. I think I'll side with you on that. Well, I've got a few more comments, so we'll go through them because people are sending them in each week, which is great. Kelvin says he totally agrees with Supermac. He's hit the nail on the head this week about the performance grade. Andy Kemp says cracking stuff, lads. Best centre halves at 3. Once Lejeune is back fit, I think Lejeune might, he played 71 minutes in the reserves the other night,
he's getting close, isn't he?
He's not far off. Jimmy McLeod, we'll finish with you, Jimmy. He says, all three of you, who are your personal favourite players? It doesn't have to be a Newcastle player in particular. That's a tough one to finish with. For me, it's always been Peter Beardsley. I'm going to stick with Newcastle players. It's a Newcastle show, so let's stick with Newcastle. Your favourite player? Mine was Peter Beardsley.
But I can't say the fella sitting next to me because he's my best mate, so that would be a little bit. Well, all right, I'll say him, and I'll give you 2 others to go with. The 3 best, creatively and for ability on the ball, Beardsley. For a bloke that finishes as he finished, and I love centre forwards, big Alan Shearer.
Alan Shearer.
Yeah, Alan Shearer. For me, for a striker, Alan Shearer. Yeah. And I would say a goalkeeper for me, Pavel Srnicek, obviously.
Well, yes,
sure.
I can understand why you said that.
Yes, just looking back over the years at Newcastle, Alan Shearer, I think, stands head and shoulders above. That his finishing was so clinical. He didn't have the pace that I had, but people didn't catch him.
No.
Yeah, and I found that quite remarkable.
The biggest plus for Alan was he adapted his game when Bobby came in, and when he lost that bit of space,
Correct.
and
he
had two bad injuries, he adapted.
That's why a great player could play in at any time in the history or future of the game because they adapt so easily.
To be truthful, because of my love of number 9s, I had a real toss-up there when you mentioned that. I thought, do I go for Alan Shearer, do I go for Supermac, or do I go for Givosh? and I decided that the World Cup winning centre forward, was going to finish third.
Well, Wayne Faraday was in my thoughts as well.
Do you know, I'm gonna sleep so happily tonight. I got the vote over Givard.
I had to think about it, mate. I had to think about it.
Well, can I just put one name in? And it's because I think he and we created a real understanding together, and that was Terry Hibbett.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that he could not,
yeah.
you know, and he was consistent with it. John Joe Shelby could be that kind of player, a Terry Hibbett, but you have to be absolutely consistent. I knew what Terry Hibbett was going to do as soon as his head went down and that foot came back. I knew where it was going to go. I'll just finish with a little story. One day Joe Harvey came into the dressing room as we were getting changed for training, and Terry Hibbett hadn't arrived, and he came in and he was swearing and he was muttering and he was he's a right little bandit, he's a real bandit, that little son-son of a bloody midfielder. And we went, well, what's up, boss? What are you going on about? He said, bloody Terry Hibbett. He said, we had a game of golf yesterday. He said, I play off 6. He said, and he told me he played off 16. He said, and look at him, he said, he's not 7 stone soaking wet. He outdrove me off every tee. Yeah, and he was a big hitter, was Joe, big shoulders.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
timing.
And it was timing. It's pure timing. You don't have to try and whack it.
Yeah.
And Hibby, he had it with a golf club, he had it with a tennis racket, and he had it with a left foot. Pure timing. Genius.
Quality. Angie says, terrifically talented trio. Thanks for this, Steve, Malcolm and Gibbo. Great chat. And Kelvin predicts a 3-1 Newcastle United win at the weekend. Noel Francis says, great to see these legends. Thanks very much. We've run out of time. Big thanks to Malcolm again and to Gibbo. We're going to play out with the Stan the Band, Love This City.
Great stuff.
Temperature rising, ooh, it's gonna take a fall. us with our backs against the wall. No, no, no. We're always standing 10 feet tall. Never see us crawl. You're gonna love, 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 love this city. Take your soul from the night. You're gonna love, gonna love, gonna love this city. Love this city. Love this city. Hey, temperature rising. Ooh, you'll never take a fall. You'll never see us with our backs against the wall. Oh, no, no. 'Cause we're all standing 10 feet tall. You'll never see us claw. You're gonna love. You're gonna love this city.
And then the game, we're going to get on.
Yeah, good.